Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. I have a copy of the Daily Trust in my hand. Lead story: Kaduna Tribunal upholds Ubasani's election on technical ground. Says election inconclusive. Orders rerun in 4 local government areas after considering merit. Will appeal, says Ashiru. It affirms mandate given to me. Governor Sani responded. On the belt, how banditry raises food price in Zamfara. And atop the page, coups. Africa needs to rejig its democracy. That's according to Jonathan. Catch that story on page 10. Beside that, FG steps into Osimhen's Napoli adversity. Just quite a nasty situation there. You could read more on that on page 31 because I saw the video and I saw what happened. And I hope that you're able to form your opinion after reading the story. Please read the story on 31. NEC begs Labour to shelve planned strike. Dialogue at state level. That story is on page 3. Well, let's see what happens. Independence Day is on the 1st of October. Labour goes to strike on the 3rd of October. What happens next? Well, it has to be seen. And at the bottom of the page, you cannot deliver Tinubu in 2027. Kwankwaso slams Ganduje. You want to know why? Well, page 5. Autopsy shows late Halima's eye not harvested. And that's according to Gombe Hospital. Unfortunate situation there. Read up on page 6. And UN slams France for barring its Olympic athletes from wearing hijab. Quite a controversy there. Page 27, you can find that story. And that's it for the Daily Trust.
And talking about controversy, there's a pictorial in front of the Punch because that's our next stop. And you see workers of the Ministry of Works outside their offices, some sitting, some standing and waiting for the minister to order the opening of the gate. But anyway, that's about the pictorial. The lead story this morning in the Punch is about the indefinite strike. It says Labour protests as federal government threatens union leaders with contempt charge. The writers attached to this story say threats won't deter us. We are no cowards, says TUCVP. And then governors ask NLC to shelve strike. And AGS says strike will be contempt of court. All right, you get more details of all of this on page 2 in the Punch newspaper. Let's take a look at the masthead. We have academic record. Atiku asks court to overrule Tinubu's objection. Page 20 has more of that story. And then telcos plan different tariffs for calls and data in states. To know more about that, page 21 commentates the story. And then CBN will spend $3 billion alone to stabilize economy. That's coming from NEC, and that's quite a lot of money there. But you get details of that on page 27 this morning. The bottom strip. Okay, we took a look at the Umahi locks out workers. Protesters cite hardship for lateness. Page 22 of the Punch has more of that story. And then Ogun APC, PDP confident as tribunal rules on Saturday. That will be tomorrow. You can keep a date with that. Keep a date with them. Page 8 has details of that story there. And on Oshun accident, very pathetic one. 5 Lautech students and driver burnt to death. Page 4 and 5 has details of that story. And then the federal government targets wealthy Nigerians in new tax drive. Page 27. And that's about the stories in front of the Punch newspaper this morning.
And for leadership on Friday, desist from planned indefinite strike. AGF wants Labour. That's the lead story. Says it's clear violation of pending court order. Don't abandon dialogue. NEC urges unions. Nupeng mobilizes members for strike. Obaseki accepts tribal's apology. That could be found beside the pictorial. And also we see, as replicated, tribunal judges defer on Kaduna governorship election. That story is on page 4. We're after economic prosperity of all Nigerians, according to Vice President Kashim Shettima. Attacks on police will no longer be accepted, says the IGP. And popularity of coup means democracy failing in Africa, according to Jonathan. Catch that story on page 6. Atop the page, NNPP fires back, says Ganduje is a liability to the APC. Quite a controversial statement there. Read up on page 6. And also, save Southeast from collapse. Okonjo-Iweala tells governor. Page 14, that story. And those are some of the stories on the front page of Leadership on Friday.
All right, let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune now. Let's start with this story about the Deputy Governor of Ogun State, Aiyedatiwa. It says APC NWC sets a 9-man committee moves to forestall impeachment. Page 28 has the story, and Obaseki accepts his deputy's governor apology. Okay, while we're trying to quench fire in this place, the other place, we're trying our best to see how this pans out. I mean, the impeachment in Ogun State, and then nomination open for 2023 Obafemi Awolowo Leadership Prize. Page 2 has more of that story. And then NEC wants states to carry out energy audit to determine needs. Right, it's attached to this story. It says, begs Labour not to embark on strike, and then says, X's crude account now $473.7 million. It started on the front page, but you continue the story on page 28 in the Nigerian Tribune. Boldly captioned, Nupeng mobilizes members for October 3 strike. It says no agreement with federal government to suspend strike. That's coming from the NLC. And then respect court order. Don't embark on strike. AGF urges NLC. You get all the details of that story on page 3 and 6. And then Abiodun Adebutu, no fate tomorrow as tribunal delivers judgment. That's page 12 now. And the military destroys 34 illegal refining sites. Arrests 59 suspects. Page 27 has more of that story. And then a sad one again, repairing on the Nigerian Tribune. 3 Lautech students die in lone accident in Osun, and 5 hospitalized. Page 26 has more details. And then we have a pictorial of the governor of Katsina. We have governor of Benue State, and we have the chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Zacchaeus Adedeji, at the National Economic Council meeting yesterday. And then just below that, we have something on the Kaduna Tribunal case. And then it says the tribunal dismisses PDP's petition. The first writer said, I won, going on appeal, PDP candidate. And then the second writer said, judgment, clear affirmation of mandate given to me. That's coming from Governor Obasani. And that's all we'll be taking this morning from the Punch and all of the papers that we have. Like we said in the beginning, it's some of the papers, and now we have done exactly that. We have a reviewer in the studio. Nuruddin Abdullahi is here. Thank you so much for joining us like every other Friday. Most Fridays, I would say. Well, can we say every Friday?
Well, welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you,
editor, as I call you. So let's start with the burning issue, because I know you're itching to give your opinion on the Kaduna issue. So tell us, what's your take?
I think that the confusion was unnecessary.
Okay.
I think a section of the media did not do its job properly.
Okay.
And it was most unfortunate. Yeah. The story was, if you look almost all the stories by the major papers, they kept on emphasizing that the verdict was delivered via Zoom. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
Court proceedings are conducted via Zoom, at least since the COVID.
Yes, that's what we're aware of.
You understand? Even though the reason for the virtual delivery of Kaduna's judgment may not be COVID or whatever, maybe it has to be with security and whatever. So, but we keep on emphasizing that. I read one story saying that the judges shunned. So, unfortunately, even the media, who should know, we should beam the searchlight, but unfortunately, we are caught napping. We monitor the proceedings via Zoom, but we behave like social media trolls. I don't think if there is any major media organization that did live update of the proceedings. No, I couldn't see that one. Normally, Daily Trust normally does that. Premium Times, Punch in most cases, like during the presidential tribunal. So it is only when you are doing live updates that you take your readers along. Justice Mardia, who is the lead, she's now reading the lead judgment. And these are the issues she's taking. So he should be given the bit and pieces of what he's saying. That was why that the Presidential Tribunal lasted more than 10 hours from, is it 9 or 10, till around 10 in the night.
It was 12 hours.
You understand? But that of Kaduna, people, I don't know, that maybe the journalists were manipulated. Yesterday, I saw about 5 media organizations, including Daily Trust, using the same version of a story that I found it everywhere. Everywhere. Yeah, it was in the Punch, it was in the Cable, it was in Daily Trust, and some other media organizations.
So what was wrong with this report?
The person that wrote the report, one or two things. Our journalists were not there, or even if they were there, they were not monitoring. And secondly, somebody somewhere has scripted that story and syndicated it. This is a fact. I saw about 5 major newspapers carry this same story.
So you're blaming it on human error.
Exactly. Inconclusive, that inconclusive nature, which is just one leg, in fact, the second inconsequential leg of the story. I'm not a lawyer. The petition has been dismissed, has been knocked out on technical ground. But because of the Supreme Court judgment, they said that, yeah, even if you are knocking out a petition based on technical ground, you have to also look at the case on it is on merit, so that it will go appellate process, Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, so that by the time the appellate court, for instance, knocked down, upturned the verdict of the first court of the first instance, which is the tribunal in this case, that, okay, no, you are, that the PDP, for instance, the case of Kaduna, its candidate, Isa Ashiru, did not file its pre-hearing and did not abandon its pre-hearing
the preliminary
exactly at the preliminary case. If that is not sustained, and they didn't look into the matter, it means that they will have to start afresh. And that's why, despite dismissing the case, they have to look at the case on its merit, which they upheld the argument of the PDP by cancelling by ordering rerun in 22 wards across 4 local governments. And because the difference between the PDP and the APC is 10,000 and the council voted about 16,000, it means that there is a rerun. Either ways, without foreclosing the outcome of whatever the appellate court or the Supreme Court will say, I don't see the opposition party. The highest percentage turnout was less than 40% during the general election. We had about 95 million registered voters, according to INEC. President Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, Shori, the total birthday poll during the election was less than 50%. 50%. So let's assume that 16,000 registered voters will come out during the rerun. Let's assume that they have, and the appellate court knocked out the preliminary whatever, and
preliminary petition
went to the main matter, that the rerun. I don't see the PDP winning. They have to get 10,000 votes to be at equilibrium. So it's a very,
anyway, just like we've been advised, we have to just put that in a can, and when it's time for us to bring it out again, of course, if they are developing stories concerning this, or where they decide to go for the appeal and we see it again, we'll probably bring that out. But one thing Nigerians are looking up to right now, it's the NLC planned strike. We've been hearing different stakeholders, even the government, asking that they shouldn't go on this strike. And some have described it as, if you go on strike, it is contempt of the court. What can you make of this planned strike by the NLC and TUC?
I have, can I say, since we are legal, whatever, predetermined about this whole strike, I think NLC, I'm afraid
Why are you
The
afraid?
NLC is towing the part of ASU.
How so?
Also,
You remember what ASU did? And it lost relevance completely. Even the students were no longer supporting ASU.
during the IPPIS saga.
Students were kept at home for more than 8 months, you understand? So this strike, okay, let's assume that, and you know the people in government, they are not folding their arms to allow the strike to succeed. They are already, the NLC now, if you look at the NURTW, the leadership crisis in the NURTW, you know, has pitched the NURTW, which is a significant member of the NLC, at war. Who knows? Minister Lalong, I think now they are cutting the NURTW, pull out of the strike. We'll have a deal. The Tuesday, for how long can they sustain the indefinite strike? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? You mean that workers should not come to work? Like they say, it's where you work, that's where you eat, Abi. Local
palace, yeah.
So how effective? And already some private organizations who are supposed to be part of the affiliate of the NLC, are the banks going to join the strike?
So what you're saying in essence is that if all sectors does not join, the desired result might not be.
It will dead on arrival. And look at even what happened during the 2 days Warner strike. It was very partial. Banks worked, and what have you. So NLC need to put its house in order and, you know, have specific demands. What are the demands? They are not talking about the reversal of the fuel subsidy removal. They are not talking about. If I were them, that's what I would go for. They will go for settlement. They are talking about how they will share the palliatives.
Okay, but they also raised a very important argument that the wages award, which we heard in some of the news that it was flying and then the federal government debunked it. Is that a way forward, if that is true?
They are demanding for higher wages. Good. The federal government, the minimum wage is 30K. It's minimum wage. You should know that. They need to include 30,000. How many states are paying 30,000? Minimum wage was about 7, 8 before it was jacked up into 18,000.
18,000.
By the time it was jacked up into 18,000, so many states were not paying, and we jacked it up to 30%, to 30,000. As I'm talking to you now, many states are not paying the 30,000 minimum wage. It shouldn't be uniform. The minimum wage in Lagos should not be the same with the minimum wage in Nasarawa, Zamfara, Ojigawa, or Yobe.
So should we be judging because of the internal generated revenue?
Let's do what the United States is doing. The minimum wage in Washington, D.C. is not the same as that of New York or California, for instance.
But those are developed economies in developed countries. So can Nigerian state afford to do that, seeing that some of them still, for lack of a better word, still go to the federal government cap in hand to get bailouts upon bailouts upon bailouts? So how feasible is it if, especially as you're saying, some of them still don't even have the capacity to implement the minimum wage as it is?
That is the problem. Now, let's assume the federal government approves, let's say, 50,000. That's how many percent increase of the minimum wage? Can you pay that? Can Jigawa pay that? So what are you getting approval for something that cannot be backed up with cash, for instance? Let's have a base. Is it 20? It shouldn't go below this. And another thing, okay, NLC is going to negotiation with some demands. Then the federal government has, just day before yesterday, I think, or was it yesterday, Senior Staff Association of Federal Workers are complaining, or are alleging, that 17,000 federal workers were removed from IPPIS.
Wow.
Tinubu said it, the president said it. He is not only auditing CBN, he was equally auditing IPIS and what have you. So more workers will go home. Maybe, who knows? Tinubu will end up saying, okay, here is the Orosanye report. I can make minimum wage 50,000 or even 60,000, but we will implement the Orosanye report. The truth is that there are so many workers without even schedule.
The downsizing now will be at the detriment of the Nigerian workers.
So that you'll make civil service more efficient.
How that would pan out and whether it would work out. But let's go to Edo State, where the governor has publicly accepted a public apology that was tendered to him publicly. So just tell the public what you think about all of that.
Why the publicly?
I mean, we're in public, so we should as well talk about it in public.
All right.
Okay. Are there commitments attached to the acceptance by His Excellency?
Well, I saw the statement, and he said
to err is human
and to forgive divine.
To forgive is divine.
So he has forgiven.
So
his,
the governor affirmed.
Okay, has he opened his office?
Well, it's left to be seen.
I think those will be developing stories as we go by.
No, unfortunately, it's politics. Shaibu in particular, the deputy governor, is a bad student of politics.
Why do you say
so?
Why?
Do you know the role he played when he rose against Oshimole and sided with Obaseki? If you ride on the back of a tiger, there is possibility that underwent his belly. It's the same thing. So many governors don't want their deputies to inherit, to succeed them, for one reason or the other. They say you'll never satisfy a deputy governor.
But isn't that because they do not have a lot of constitutional rules to actually act in the capacity of the deputy governor? They're always in the shadow.
What's the schedule of the deputy governor? I mean, I know the vice president chairs the National Economic Council.
So if you're going by the Nigerian parlance, it's to attend meetings when the governor is not on seat.
To represent the governor if he's not around. Because I know that it's almost a similar kettle of fish in Ondo State with, so far theirs has even taken, a little bit of a fast forward so far.
Impeachment.
Exactly. So let's say for Philip Shaibu, he's still at least swimming in the waters. For Aidatua, he's probably approaching shore now. But then it left to be seen. I'm not preempting anything. But why is this the situation sometimes, or in most cases, where we see everybody so jolly and merry, as at the time of contesting elections, first tenure, second tenure, towards the end, I cannot work with this person.
That played out in Kogi State as well.
It's natural, politically. The first thing we should correct is, why do outgoing governors want to install their successors? Why? That's the first question. Majority are, in Kogi now, the auditor for local government, who is a relative of the outgoing governor, is being propped up as a successor. And sometimes, politically, there are mortal political mistakes that governors don't forgive. We know what happened with Let Eradua when he was in Katsina, with Jikamishi, his deputy. The allegation of that time was that Eradua was sick for about, just like the Governor Akeredolu's case, he was away for about 4 months to Germany. And the allegation was that, he piled up so much money, he wasn't given a contract because he was. But immediately he was away, and power was transferred to the deputy. He awarded all manner of contracts, and you know what awarding contract means. When Eradua came, I remember Senator, he's late now, Senator Kantibello, said that he read in the paper, he said that he took Eradua and Jikamishi to the Holy Land, the Kaaba. He said, Your Excellency, for the sake of the honor of this house, please, what has your deputy done to you? Eradua looked at him and he said nothing. But the man was given the boot. We saw what happened with Kotelo, with Samini Turaki and Jigawa during their first, all these things between 1999 and 2003. So that's the trajectory. You don't want your deputy to inherit you, because a deputy governor is a very difficult and dire situation. If you wear good clothes, the people around the governor will say, Your Excellency, this guy wants to outshine you. If you wear a tattered something, they say, you see, he wants people to insult you.
That you're not doing the right thing.
So that is it.
Right.
And a deputy governor have that deep-seated anxiety against his boss. Whatever you do, he said, no, he's looking down on you. We saw what happened between Bafra and Ramako. Ramako was the one, he was deputy governor. In 1999, for instance, you can win an election before you pick a deputy, meaning that he contributes 0 naira to the campaign. Atiku, Obasanjo did it to Atiku, for instance.
So does that mean that they have less power because, you know, they've not been in the picture? But this time around, we see them campaigning together and they've been in the fight together.
Because of the electoral amendment. But despite that, they are still spare tires. There was this story of a former governor of Yobe. The governor was moving and the deputy governor of the company. The governor's car had a problem. He picked the deputy governor's car, and the deputy governor was sent back to the security details vehicle. You are a spare tire when you aspire to be a deputy.
Oh, not me. I'm not aspiring to be a deputy governor.
But quickly, let me get your thought on this. Okay, no, I was beginning to think that you man will not have this commotion because I watched the program on Friday.
Okay.
And now I see that it's starting.
He starts
but you know, I'm a peacemaker. I will just not allow this to happen.
I just want to do the program, but he will take swipes at me.
Okay, Malam Nuruddin, let me get your thought on this. Something happened, very hilarious. Some people have described this as hilarious. Some people have described it as insensitive. When the Minister of Works get into the office and ordered that the gate be locked to hundreds of people who were supposed to be at work at that time. What that report didn't find out was when did the minister enter? Because I saw some people, you know, on TV speak about what the governor, the former governor did, and the Minister of Works now did, and they didn't talk about the time, and they attributed it to hardship. What can you make of all of this commotion?
You see, we are still going back to the efficiency of the civil service. So many people doing very little, with all due respect to them, you understand? And you know, Umahi is a former governor for 8 years. So those executive powers, take a look, assemble the minister, check out their convoys, their motorcade. The convoys of former governors is different from just an ordinary one Nuruddin that was just picked from the newsroom and made a minister. You understand? So, you know, that executive exuberance being showcased. Maybe, and Umahi, you know, he's heading one of the most important ministries, federal ministries. Abuja is not Ebonyi. Ebonyi is a very small state, even in the north, even in the southeast. Yes, he's not the first to do that. The same governor that has accepted the apology of his deputy once locked out his staff. There was another one that was even carrying Koboko. We saw what Zulum was doing. He was going to offices by 8 when even the cleaners were not there. And most recently, we saw what the chief judge, the president of the Court of Appeal did.
Okay, so I think we'll continue with this conversation sometime in the future.
We should have this conversation.
Yes, we should. We should. And I hope that we'll have this conversation without...
Particularly when the palliatives are...
So I would speak to you about the palliatives maybe after the show. However, we've been discussing with editor Nuruddin Abdullah, the editor at 21st Century Chronicle, and he's been sharing perspectives on some of the headlines on the front pages of national dailies. Nuruddin, thank you so much
for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Always a pleasure having you.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much for being a part of the show today. And like Sagir said, this is the last lap for today, but we'll continue the conversation tomorrow. And don't forget, on Sunday, we will have our special Independence Day coverage and program. So keep a date with us. And thank you so much. The sports program that is 360 Sports on Trust Television is next. My name is Mardia Umar. Have a wonderful day.